What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the Fed stress report for banks, some big data coming out for tomorrow, and why I see a very big test for the markets as we're approaching some very critical levels. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and put in $500 into the account, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks with my link down below. This offer ends in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, what's happening with the markets? Let's break this down. So, as you guys can see, SPY has a head and shoulders like structure over here. And a lot of people like to assume that this means we're going to collapse, we're going to crash, but that's not a guarantee if you look at this year. This year, there have been a lot of instances where head and shoulders did not play out. They were just used as traps for retail. And if it really was that easy, if they always play out, then a lot of people would make crazy money all the time off of them. But that's not how the market works. There's a lot of trickery, lots of manipulation. So you have to be very open-minded to that. So what do I think is going to happen? I think that there's going to be a big test coming, and it's going to determine if SPY is about to get a continuation rally, if this head and shoulders is a trap and the market's about to just continue to pump, or if we're about to get a massive rug pull. So I'll break down what levels to watch for to see if that's going to be the case. I'm also going to break down some more important things that just came out. So one thing that came out that's actually very interesting and a little bit better, at least for the markets, is the fact that the Federal Reserve is saying that all 31 banks in the annual stress test withstood a severe hypothetical downturn. And the reason why that's good is because this kind of shows that although banks are not as positioned effectively, at least for some kind of downturn, they're still able to withstand at least a lot of severe downturn pressure, according to this report. That's been a little bit more positive, at least I would say, for not only the banks, but also the markets. And this included a lot of tests on JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and many other credit card companies. So that's something that's worth noting. For data for tomorrow, it's going to be another very important day because 1 hour before the market opens for tomorrow being Thursday, June 27th, 2024, we have the GDP growth rate numbers coming out. We also have initial and continuing jobless claims and more GDP numbers from sales to continuation and growth. So, in my personal opinion, 1 hour before market open, we're going to see some volatility depending on how the GDP numbers look, and also depending on the initial jobless claims report. This is going to cause some volatility, so get ready for that 1 hour before the market opens for tomorrow. And for the rest of the day, we just have some minor manufacturing numbers and then some bill auctions. Everything else is going to be more minor, but that 1 hour before market open will be when we see more volatility. Now, for data, please note tomorrow we have more earnings coming out. We just have basically Nike and a few others. Whatever they end up announcing will affect every single one of these individual stocks, and then we'll see how things end up kind of continuing from there. On top of all of this, when it comes to the heat map right now, let me just show you guys this. We basically are seeing a lot of big tech stocks like Microsoft holding up well. Even consumer electronics like Apple are doing relatively well. Communications are kind of mixed, and then other cycles are doing very well. Like we're starting to see Amazon, Tesla and the others holding up very well. Nvidia dipped a bit only to get bought back up. It's still holding decently, I would say, and the market is still being led by these big tech stocks. But besides that, the majority of stocks are kind of in the red or kind of neutral. That's something that's worth noting. But we are still seeing big tech dominating the field for the markets. So the question is the market going to continue to rally? Are we about to get a rug pull? Here is my answer. The answer is it depends on what the levels we end up breaking. So I'm going to actually close this out. So we have this resistance. I'm going to change the color of this to white. I'm going to make the top resistance zone right here actually yellow. That's going to be a very important resistance. I'll get to that in just a second. And then we also happen to have our very important looking areas right here that are going to be developing differently. And then we have this support that's developing. I'm going to just change the color of this real quick. I would say this 543 area is going to be a critical support, especially for close. That's going to be another very important level too. So SPY is very tricky right now. Okay. We have this head and shoulders. There's no guarantee it's going to play out. If it's going to play out tomorrow, you want to see SPY basically lose a very critical support. You want to see SPY come all the way down here towards 543 and then get a big rug pull and lose this support. If we lose 543 tomorrow, we're going to be tipping all the way down to 542, which is where our 50 EMA happens to be. And if we lose that, I think that the head and shoulders could play out, and we're going to be looking for a rug pull all the way down to 537. If we're bullish, you want to see SPY break past 547 If we break through this, I think we could be pushing for all-time highs, but we have to close above that for tomorrow. What's happening? We're kind of dipping in the after hours right now amidst some data releases, and we're going to be very patient with this one. But like I said before, the market's very tricky. We have a lot of moments where SPY kind of like pumps, dumps, pumps, dumps, pumps, dumps, back and forth and back and forth. It's absolutely wild. So I think what's going to happen tomorrow is we're going to likely see an attempt to push higher depending on the data in the morning. We might retest 545.8, if not get closer to 547. And then we'll have to see if we get a big rejection in this range between 545.8 to 5%. If we reject off this range, SPY could be dipping back down to 543. If that fails us, we're going to be looking for the rug pull. The bears will step in if we lose 543. If we end up breaking past 547 and we continue to pump, then we could be going to all-time highs on SPY. I say this with less certainty because of the fact that we have the GDP numbers coming out and initial jobless claims. If I was some kind of fortune teller, I would tell you what the numbers would be and tell you what will happen, but I personally don't know. And as a day trader, you always want to be prepared for anything. You want to be prepared for different scenarios. So that's the reason why I'm going to try to be open-minded with this. So going into tomorrow, we're going to be looking for another pump attempt. And if it's followed by a big rejection, this is going to lead to a big sell off, and we're going to be losing 543. If we end up breaking past 547, there's going to be a nice pump coming, but that is looking like we're kind of in the middle right now between these levels. As you can see, SPY has been going back and forth between 543 and 547 for the last 3 or 4 days. So we just have to wait and see for confirmation just to be safe. But make sure you keep these numbers in mind. This is why it's very important to watch this video. You will know about the data that's coming out and the big test that's coming. So watch this in real time tomorrow and you will know which way the market's going to go. Now for Tesla looks very strong. It's very strong. We're approaching deliveries going into next week for July 2nd. And we have a nice, basically double bottom structure right here, which will lead to likely more upside. I do think we could retrace a bit towards 192 to retest this top right here before we try to bounce. But overall, it still looks bullish. A little retracement and a bounce is very probable because of also this inverse head and shoulders like structure. This could also lead to more upside into the 200s. So in my personal opinion, Tesla's looking more bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows. We're breaking out. We have an inverse head and shoulders, and there's a lot of hype associated with deliveries right now, especially because analysts are raising their price targets to 265 a share, and we're seeing a lot of hype for a lot of developments with AI and such. So I think that that is very important, and I think that there's a very good chance that this will continue to pump. I think that Tesla will likely the most likely possibility is we kind of retrace a bit, then we try to bounce. So make sure you watch our support at 194.5. If we lose this, I'll be looking at 191.6, then 188. And if we end up bouncing off any of these supports, especially 192, I think we might test that tomorrow. So a little dip could be coming before we try to bounce. If we break out again and try to bounce, watch 196.5 as our critical resistance. If we break above that, I think we could be getting very close to 200. All right. And I think there is still more upside nonetheless, at least for the more medium term. Tesla might just get a temporary dip and then a bounce is the most likely possibility. For Bitcoin's kind of rejecting off its 20 EMA, so I do see a little dip coming to this imbalance towards 60,250. There's a very good chance that that's going to be tested, so we'll see if we bounce off this or not. But I do favor that that's going to be leading to a dip. And then for Nvidia is also sort of kind of like dipping here. We had this high right here, we came down, made a lower high. We retested this 130 area, kind of rejected off this, but now Nvidia is trying to kind of base very close to where our EMAs happen to be, very close to our 4-hour 50 EMA. So I'm thinking that Nvidia is kind of shopping right here around 124. So we're either going to see a big bounce on Nvidia tomorrow to break past 130. If that breaks, we're going to be squeezing to higher levels. Or if we lose 122, we're going to be looking for a big dip all the way down to 120 and then those lower levels like 117. So I'm in the middle right now. It kind of pumped a little bit. Now it's just kind of consolidating. That's all it's been doing all day. So it's waiting for a big move tomorrow, if not by Friday for now. For the QQQ, we are technically below the 479 area, but so we'll be watching to see if this is an inverse cup and handle. Are we about to get a rug pull? If we lose 478, I'll be looking for a test of 475.5, maybe a little bit higher, like 476 by tomorrow, since the 50 EMA is kind of trending upwards. So I think we're going to be testing that. If we lose that support, we'll be dipping all the way down to this low around 472. Then eventually we have a gap to fill at 468. So if we get the rug pull, you want to see it lose 478, then 476 to start dipping lower. If we're not going to get the rug pull and this is a trap, you want to see it break past 480. If we break 480, look at 482, then 484. Breaking 484 would turn this bullish, and I think that we're going to be looking for new all-time highs. So keep those levels in mind, okay? Keep those levels in your mind for now. If we want to break new all-time highs or not, but these are going to be some very, very tight levels to watch for. My gut tells me this is going to dip a little bit, but then we'll be watching for a big test at 478 tomorrow. If we get that bounce and break 480, we're back to bullish. 484 breaking would be very bullish. And if we lose 478, I'll be looking at 475. Losing that turns us more bearish. I don't know what's going to happen. It depends on our data, so keep that in the back of your mind. For Aapl, we are looking like we're building some strength, so it's looking a little bit more bullish. I think that Aapl could retrace a bit to retest 212, and then if that fails, we could go all the way down to 210, but then we could bounce off here. So technically, it does look a little bit more bullish. With this nice green bar and a nice cross on the PPO, so the odds favor like a little bit of a dip and a bounce as the most likely possibility. However, if Aapl loses 208, we're going to turn back to bearish. And if we could bounce off 210, we could try to rebound. As of right now, it looks like it's going to drop a bit and try to rebound. So I'll be watching that as well. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm just going to be talking about the other tickers that we have from Palantir and beyond. So for Palantir, it has a head and shoulders like structure similar to SPY, but we haven't lost our 50 EMA. If we lose 24 tomorrow, I'll be looking at 23.5 as support. Losing that opens the doors for a very, very big dip all the way down to the 22s. And if we bounce off 24, we could be rebounding towards 25, and that's going to be pushing us this imbalance at 25.5. So tomorrow, it's looking a little bit more probable like this is going to actually dip lower and lose support since this is looking a little bit more bearish on our PPO. So it does favor downside a bit more, but that's not a guarantee as it depends on the data. Just know that technicals do look a little bit weaker for this. Same thing with Super Micro. You guys can see how it's dipping in the after hours. It's down another 1%. So it looks to me like it's going to not only have a head and shoulders that plays out, but we're about to see 780, this little imbalance up here get filled. So it does look a bit more bearish, technically speaking. That does favor the downside, but just to be safe, watch and see what the reaction is tomorrow based off data. Rivian pumped very, very nicely. I did tell everyone we're going to likely retest this support over here, all the way over here around the 16 points, the 17 area. And if we lost that, we'd be looking for a target all the way down here towards 13.68. So because we pumped so hard on Rivian after VW made a big investment into them, I think that there's a good chance we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 13.68 for a little bit more downside before we try to bounce. So either 13.68 or 12.85 is where we might see some buyers step in again. So look for a little bit more downside before we attempt to bounce. SoFi, we're kind of flat in the after hours. I think that we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, but this is going to depend on a lot of big bank earnings. Tomorrow, I think we're going to get a really nice consolidation here, retest of 6.5 and sideways price action. Not much is going on with it, not much volatility. For the IWM, looks a little bit weaker. I do favor it's going to be dipping down towards 198.5, but just to be safe, we will wait and see if that ends up being the case. AMD is looking a bit more bearish. We have this nice little trend. We had a channel, but it's looking like it might actually kind of trend lower in this channel. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually end up testing 155 tomorrow. That's where we have this wick right here. And if that fails us, we could be dipping down to 153. So I favor downside a little bit more. For ARM, in my personal opinion, it looks a little bit weaker. We'll be looking at resistance basically towards 165, and we have support currently at 159.8. If we lose that, I'll be looking for 154. I'm seeing some weakness on ARM right now, so I see a test of 159.88 tomorrow. If we lose that, look for a bigger rug pull. If we hold that, we could bounce. It looks to me like it's going to be testing that, so wait and see what the reaction is. Coinbase is looking weaker. I did call downside in my earlier video, so we have a double top like structure, and we're looking kind of weak right here. I think that Coinbase will try to retest 218. If we reject here, we'll be dipping back down to 207. If we break past 218, look for 223 to be tested. Breaking that will help us fill the gap. But it's looking a little bit weak, technically speaking. It does favor like a more downside and a move back down to 210, if not lower levels. That looks a little bit more probable to me. Amazon's looking pretty strong in my personal opinion relative to the markets. If we end up losing 193, I'll be looking for a retest of the breakout at 191. And if as long as we hold above 193, I'm going to be looking for a retest of 195. So watch 193 is a critical test tomorrow. I think that 195 will be coming as long as we hold above it. If not higher than that, towards 200. But if we lose 193, like I said, watch this previous resistance being retested. This will depend a lot on the data, but just know technicals still look very strong. Same thing for Meta. We're looking pretty strong right here. If we continue to break it, I'll be looking for 515, which is where this wick happens to be. If we lose 510, we'll be dipping down to 505, but this looks more bullish. I think 515 looks more probable. For Microsoft, I think it's just hovering above its 20 EMA. So I see a little test coming of 449 tomorrow. It might dip a bit to 449 and bounce and just continue to uptrend. But overall, it's still looking bullish. Just a little dip and a bounce is more likely. I think that Google pumped so hard to the point where it's kind of dipping a bit. So we might see a retest of about 184. So I see a little bit of a dip coming on the 4-hour. I'm seeing some weakness as momentum is slowing down. Also, volume is slowing down for it too. GameStop is looking weak. We need to break past 25.67 to turn bullish. Otherwise, we're just trading sideways. AMC for the people who like it. We need to break past 4.75 to turn more bullish. We're showing more strength in GameStop, but we haven't broken key resistance yet, so we're still kind of stuck within a range. For DJT, we're trying to rebound a bit. Going to be looking for a test of 40. We'll have to see how that reaction ends up coming. For the VIX, not really doing much. It's still kind of choppy. We'll see if we end up losing support at 12.43. If that's the case, we could come down to fill the gap at 11.96. And if we end up bouncing off this support, we could be looking for a test of 12.95. If that breaks, the 13s are coming. It all depends. We're at support on the VIX, so we'll see if we break support or not. We're in the middle for now, so it's very indecisive waiting for data for tomorrow. The 10-year is kind of flat. It might be retesting 4.34. Not really causing much, so I'm not really worried about that. The dollar is starting to break out more, so this could be a little bit of a sign of weakness for the markets. However, like I said in my earlier video, we're approaching this tough resistance around 106.5. We're only about 0.5 away from that. So if it does go a little bit higher, we'll be watching to see if we get a big rejection off the tough resistance. We're barely at 106, so we'll give this a little bit more time. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. And just know that as far as the market goes, there's going to be a very big test tomorrow. Tomorrow, if SPY could break 547, we're going to turn back to bullish, and this thing could be breaking new all-time highs. If you get a big rejection, watch 543. If we lose that, there's going to be a big dip coming. So make sure you make sure you watch these key levels. We have this resistance right here in yellow and this key support in yellow as well. The two yellow lines you see, those are going to be your levels to be watching for. All right, so like I said before, I'm not really a fortune teller. I don't know what the data will give us. So I'm going to be very patient on this one and then wait and see which way we break for the much bigger move. Otherwise, I'm just trading sideways on the side. I'm just watching, see how the market moves. I'm just going to be playing the range we have for now, and then I'll be waiting to see how things end up looking. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. I will see you guys very soon tomorrow morning before the market ends up opening to report initial jobless claims and the GDP numbers. Until then, have a great evening. Take care, guys, and peace out.